Should you be grouping your content together on social media by content type, or is it better to mix it up? Now, specifically, we're going to be talking about Instagram today because now Instagram allows us to be doing different types of content. And so we had a really great question come in this week all about whether or not we should be grouping it with a specific schedule, like posting 3 pictures in a row and then the next day posting 3 reels, and then the next day going back to 3 pictures. What's a good schedule for this? So let's break this down a little bit. Let's talk about what we need to know when it comes to grouping content, specifically on Instagram. So at this point, we know that Instagram is focusing more so on video, on reels, on videos, on live streams than on the other types of content, but they're still allowing and going to be featuring, but not quite as heavily, things like photos and carousels and shopping and all of these really great things. So when it comes to creating content, if you are posting more content, you're going to be getting more eyes on what you're doing, but there's a couple of things to keep in mind with this. Now, the first is how the algorithm is sending things out. So we know that the algorithms first will look at your content and send it to some of your subscribers or your followers. And based on their interactions, they decide to send it to more people that don't know you or not to show it to other people. So based on how your content performs with people who've already said, yes, I really like this person and want to see their content, then they decide what to do next. We also know that this is relevant to the times that you are going to be posting, because if you are posting when people are active on the platform, you're going to get people who are maybe focused a little bit more on reacting or interacting with you. So posting when people who are going to be engaged with you are actually on the platform, that's going to be incredibly helpful. So when you are posting at different times, it means you're going to reach different audiences. So in general, you do not want to be posting the same type of content at the same time every day, because that means the same eyes are always going to be on it. And if they interact, that's cool. But if they don't interact, that's not so cool. So I do not recommend posting 3 photos one day and then 3 reels the next day and then 3 photos the next day, because you're actually missing quite a bit with your audiences. So when you mix it up and do like every other or every couple, you're going to get new eyes, new audiences on it. So posting at different times means different audiences. So let's say on day 1, you're going to post 1 reel and then 1 photo and then another reel if you're doing 3 pieces of content per day. You can also mix this up on, Mondays I post a reel and Tuesdays I post a photo and Wednesdays I post a reel. But if it's a schedule like that, you're only going to get that audience. The people who are there on Mondays will always see the reel. They're not going to see the photos if they're not there on Tuesdays. So posting these at different times, whether it's different days or different hours during the day, means you're going to reach a different audience, which means you have a higher likelihood of getting that engagement, especially if you have a particular subset of your audience that does not engage with you. So mixing this up is definitely going to help by finding a different audience every time, which raises your likelihood of getting those interactions. So it's really, really good to post at different times to then get interactions at different times. Now, rotating your content type is really going to be helpful, because not only is it going to reach that different audience, but it is going to connect with the people in the way that they want to consume your content. There are people on Instagram who just want to watch the videos. They scroll over to the Reels tab and they scroll through like it's TikTok. Remember, there are countries that don't have access to TikTok, so this is their thing. And so Reels is going to be something that a lot of people want to consume. But there will be some people who do not love Reels and they just want to see photos, or they just want to see shopping things, or they just want to see carousels. There are going to be people who don't want to see photos. So if you spend an entire day posting a bunch of photos and that's all people see, they're not necessarily going to love that if they don't love photos. So when you rotate your content types, whether it is throughout the period of a day or the period of a week, you're going to allow people to consume your content in the way that they want. Giving them multiple options is going to be helpful. Now, a lot of us will jump into this conversation because we're hot and heavy on those reels right now. We know video is what's performing. It's performing on all the major platforms better than anything else. And we will feel like the more videos we create, the more views we're going to get, the more interactions we're going to get, but we cannot forget about the people who specifically want to see our photos. And just because we're using a photo as a cover image doesn't mean people see it. They only see that if they go over to your grid. So mixing up your types of content is going to be incredibly helpful as you go, which brings me to another really important point. And if you're jumping in and joining me, hi, welcome. Go ahead and drop your questions down below before we wrap up for today. My really important point that I want to make right now in relation to this is your grid. Your grid is now less important than how you show up in the feed. So people will look at me and say, but KM, I have a grid and I want to make it pretty and I want to make it curated and I want to make it look nice. So having 3 photos and then having 3 reels and then having 3 photos and then having 3 reels is aesthetic. But you know what? Nobody looks at your grid. The only people looking at your grid are your super fans who want to make sure they didn't miss anything, which most people are not going to go check for that, and new people who are just meeting you. So while it is important to have something that's going to look pretty and going to look nice and going to get their attention, most people are not going to see your grid. People are not going over to observe that at this point. It is more important to focus on how you're showing up in the feed. When people are scrolling through their device, what are they seeing? Are they seeing photos from you, just a bunch of photos from you, and they think, oh, well, this person never posts videos? Or are they only exclusively seeing those videos? And, oh, this person never posts photos or carousels or shopping or whatever it happens to be. Or long form video or live streams or whatever. If they only see one type of content and that shows up again and again and again, and it's not their favorite thing, are they going to hang out with you? Probably not. Are they going to follow you? Probably not. Will they potentially unfollow you if you're not giving them the content that they want to see? Maybe. Your grid is drastically less important than how you show up in the feed. So if you're rotating through your content, if people are scrolling through, especially with the new changes inside of how we're going to be able to see our content. Remember, we announced last week that Instagram is now going back to giving us options. We have the home feed as it is right now with ranked content. We do have our chronological content in the form of following and in the form of favorites. So we're going to actually be able to see content in different ways. And if they're scrolling chronologically and you've just posted 3 photos in a row and that's not entertaining or interesting to them, are they going to love that? Probably not. If they're really into video, but they see multiple videos like back to back to back, will that get a little annoying to some people? So you have to take into consideration how you're showing up in their feed, when you're showing up, and what content you are providing. So remember, we're making quality content. We are mixing up the type of content that we are creating. We're rotating how we're putting them out there. We're trying different times, different days to put out content so we reach different audiences. And we're very aware of creating quality conversation with them through our captions, through the things that we're posting, through the things that we're saying on our videos, our live streams, and our reels. And we are making sure that we are eliciting that engagement from them in a way that forms community and conversation in order to thrive on the platform. So, final answer, rotate your content. Don't drop a bunch of the same thing on the same day, because for the most part, that is not going to work for you. And even if it's your aesthetic, nobody cares. That's okay. You're all going to be good. We're just rotating what we're doing. We're going to be able to put our content out there and get seen by the right people. But having a strategy of rotating it via times, via days, through the ways that we are developing and creating content, through the different systems of creating content, all of these things are going to help us grow. So track this with your audience. See what works for them. See what responds with them and resonates with them, and then lean heavily into that to continue creating your content. Now is the time to test things, because Instagram's growing and growing and growing. And if you test now and you fail now or succeed now, it's going to be better than down the road when more eyes are watching you. If you got questions on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, on live streaming, or on any of the tools or resources that you can use to make your content creation easier, now is the time to hit that subscribe and notification bell. And make sure you head over to our social medias. I've got 2 of them for you. Tech tips on social media, tutorials on how to use it, algorithm change, platform updates, all on KM Robinson Social, and content creation ideas, tips, and tricks on social media for bosses so that you don't even have to decide what you're going to post. I just give you ideas and you just have to create it. There's a ton of ways to hang out with me, so make sure you head over to kmrobinson.com and join us every single week for our live stream Q&A here on the platform. New videos every single day with tutorials on how to navigate TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, live streaming, tools and technology, and more.